It's going to be good. Just follow David, and everything's going to be good. Oh, I got to grab my phone.
Good evening. Welcome to 4 Days with Shais, the annual SoulWords community campaign. And I think I'm going to see myself at some point, or see what you're seeing. But we're live. We are live, and we are here in Crown Heights. And this is
321 Motion Studios.
321 Motion Studios.
Our
so that's
favorite place to go for all of our video needs.
That's a giveaway. Do you see my guest? Do you see our guest? Well, if we could see ourselves, that would make, see, I'll open it up and I'll see ourselves right in front of me. All right.
Oh, on your laptop, you're watching.
I'm going to open it because I don't see it in the screen in front of me.
But
Can we tell everybody what we're doing here and what we're
Yes,
gonna be
what are we
over
doing
the next
here?
4 nights? So you have a campaign every year. This year
Yes.
will be the 3rd time you're running a
It's the fourth,
fundraiser.
it's actually the 4th campaign, but it's the 3rd live stream campaign.
Oh, you did one?
I did one initially. It was just a regular campaign. I said that's too normal. Like let's make it a little more exciting. And we started the live stream. And if you remember, I think we were sitting in your car. I don't remember where we were going. And I was like, I'm doing a live stream in a few days, and I'm totally not prepared. You were like, I'll help you.
Yeah, I make that mistake all the time. And I catch myself after. Why did I do that?
And now
and
you're
now
stuck.
3 years later, we're here. And
Yeah, but I want to tell you something. The first time you helped me to run a live stream, you were single. And then that year you got married.
Right.
And then I don't know what happened the second time you helped me. Is it no, this is the 3rd time you're helping me?
Yeah.
Okay, so the second time you did a live stream with me, you had a son.
That's right.
So I just want
The
everyone to
3rd
know.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Right.
hosting the SoulWords annual live stream is a segula for a good shidduch and for children.
And now I accomplished both of those. So whoever. But we got a lot of good stuff ahead. And tonight is the first of 4 nights of live streaming with Rabbi Taub in honor of this campaign. And could we, because the campaign it went live today.
Yes.
But it started on the back end. Donations have been coming in since before the weekend.
Yes.
So maybe we'll start, just open up. And you got ambitious this year. There's a lot of stuff
there was inflation.
and it's, yeah.
I was just following my lead from the gas pumps.
Now you're following the egg numbers. So if I remember correctly, 2 years ago when we were here,
Yes.
I think maybe we did
There was 150. In the bonus round, we got to 180, yeah.
Yeah, and then last year 250, and
no, it wasn't even 250.
No,
I think it was 200.
200,
Yeah.
and now we're going all the way. We're going for $500,000 over the next 4
Say
days.
500,000.
Sounds a lot less.
It sounds less
palatable.
threatening than $500,000.
Okay.
After I raise it, I'm going to brag to everyone that I raised $500,000.
Okay.
But before we raise it, we're trying to get people to give it. We'll call it 500,000.
Okay.
I think psychologically, it's.
We're gonna have to keep your humility in check over the next 4 days, and I'm gonna have to assume responsibility for making the case.
Can I tell you something? You speak about keeping the humility in check. So first of all, it's not like I have such great self-esteem that's
an issue?
An issue. But
No. What I meant by that. Okay,
what do you mean by it?
I meant the type of the misplaced humility
Oh,
is
the
what
misplaced humility.
meaning assuming that you the misplaced humility where as in why should I do the who am I and that sort
Yeah,
of
who
stuff.
am I to?
So I think maybe we should even start right there.
Okay.
Why is this campaign happening? Why are you raising $500,000? Not $500,000. Why are you raising $500,000?
Yeah.
Um,
You're really asking?
no, I'm asking, and I'm going to say why.
Oh, okay. All right. What?
I get somewhat
have
of
an
a
answer,
behind the scenes look into the work you do, and I'd love
Mhm.
to hear what you have to say. But just
I would love to hear what you have to say.
yeah, I'm
Yes.
just saying what's gone on over the last few weeks to get this thing
Yeah.
together. What's going on right here tonight? What goes on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, and the amount of material that you've been putting out over the years, but especially over the last 2, 3, and even the last year, just see the growth incrementally in terms of the content, the quality of the content, the numbers of people that you reach, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that in more detail so people understand just the impact of the money that you're raising and where it's going.
Yeah. There's no question that money helps, and as we've raised more money, we've touched more people, and the growth has been, Baruch Hashem, it's been enormous. This year was the biggest, exponentially, it was the biggest year of growth, especially on social media platforms. We had, with the help of a few very viral videos, I think I mean, don't get too impressed by this number, but I think we reached 10 million people. I was doing the math in preparation for the campaign, and we reached 10 million people this year. Now, I don't mean those people are regular students coming to study with me, but on some level, people who've seen some content from SoulWords, about 10 million this year. As far as regular people who are learning on a monthly basis, and some of them much more frequently on a weekly or sometimes more than weekly basis, there's about 50,000 people in our virtual community. I think of it as a virtual community. It's not a brick and mortar shul, but it's like a place virtually where kindred spirits get together. And we're not for everybody, you know. We're not. I think we're a niche type of offering, but those with whom the message and the style of the message resonates seem to find us more and more every year. And yeah, we've expanded. I mean, it's incredible what technology has made possible. That's all I could say.
And yeah, if you follow Rabbi Taub, and I assume if you're watching this is because you've seen or follow Rabbi Taub's work in one way or another, and there's so many different things, and that's really what we're going to be covering over the next tonight and the next through Thursday night. I'm going to give a little taste of each of the larger themes and programs that you have on a regular basis. And tonight we're starting with one that has had enormous impacts on the Jewish community at large, and really it runs the gamut, all different demographics of people that have found solace, and I hear a lot of things. I'm speaking specifically of the Shaar HaBitachon series that you did 3 years ago during COVID.
Yeah, right in the heart of the lockdown.
Started right about now, and people just continue to start it and re-listen to it, and I've seen some of the comments that come through, and a lot are thanking you and appreciative of that work. And so we're gonna start in a few minutes more about that, and then we have some of your Tanya work that we're going to get to tonight. And if you're watching this on YouTube or on soulwords.org/live or wherever you're watching it, there's, I'm sure, a link there that will take you straight to the campaign page, which is soulwords.org/live. You just hit the live icon on the website, and that will show you a little schedule of what's coming over the next 4 nights. So if we can, I want to just get a little update, and I don't know if people can see the screen behind me. I was going to open this up here so I can see it without the
Don't get confused because it's on delay.
Yeah, I don't like seeing my
You're gonna
face.
get more. You don't want to see your face. Okay.
Wow. We, we're only a few minutes in. We're at, oh, there we go. I got it in front of me. We're at $45,000. $44,000 and 472. That's my address. And we just got an anonymous just donated $108. Got some beautiful donations here. Can I ask you about some of these teams?
Yeah, sure.
There's 24 teams.
Baruch Hashem. Yes.
Let me refresh
That's,
this page.
by the way, when I say like we have a virtual community, there are like sub communities within the community. And these teams, a lot of them are people who connect with SoulWords in different ways. I don't know. So you want to ask me about some of them? Hopefully.
Yeah, I
hope
see.
you're not going to catch me out not knowing what
Some
one
are
of the teams
names. I
is.
see emotional intelligence.
Yes. Yeah.
How typical. Emotional intelligence is only at like 0.5%. I'm kidding. I didn't want you to. You didn't say any who they were, so I was able to make that count.
Person who took the parenting class, and she. We sent out on our social media a few weeks ago already some announcements. Who wants to be a team leader? And she responded, and so you see, Odie, she got some donations.
Nah, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
It was a joke about emotional
Yeah.
intelligent people.
Yeah.
Who just okay. There's a lot of parenting alumni.
Parenting alumni. Okay, that's specifically okay. Emotional intelligence is also a parent. I should say what the parenting is. The parenting is a parenting course that I think at this point over 2,000 people have taken. That was also, by the way, something that came from the COVID lockdown. I started that when everyone was on Zoom all day. We started testing the parenting course, and then after we ran test.
Did you ever have to mute yourself while you're screaming at your kids while teaching people about parenting over Zoom?
No.
You know that? Right.
Yeah. So the parenting alumni, that's people who took the parenting course. What else you want to ask?
I want to ask a lot of things, but
what about the Tanya one? There's a Tanya group.
First of all, your budget has increased to the point that we have you got a professional production team running this year. Not like some past years you had an amateur. They wanted me to wear a wire. They wanted me to wear a wire. You know. and I whatever. I would have pulled it off, so I just didn't. So instead, I have someone pointing to me and
they're telling you what?
And they're telling me what. That is a question I did want to ask you. Okay, you've been speaking for how many years? When did you start your speaking career?
I started. You said you've been speaking. I started speaking when I was like 11 months old.
What was your first words? Did your mother ever tell you?
I spoke before I could walk. And I'm still experiencing that discrepancy between verbal skills and gross motor skills.
Eventually?
Never evened out. Never. No.
Can I ask you, we're going to get like Hasidic with this, but I once heard, I don't know if there's a source for this in Hasidus, but that the reason why there's like Daimim Tzameach Chai Medaber.
Yeah.
Like
the four levels of inanimate, vegetable, animal, and human. Yeah. And
that human is
human is called Medaber.
That a speaker.
Yes.
One who speaks.
Speaker.
The thing the theory as to why specifically of all capabilities.
Yes.
That speech would be the title that human gets.
Yes.
Anything. There's something specifically about speech that warrants it being the title for what distinguishes human from animal.
You want to know something that nobody knows? And I'm saying it now on a live stream. I spoke to Noam Chomsky about this, and it's on video, and I didn't put it out yet.
There's a whole stash of stuff.
There is a stash of archives.
I'm privy to some of it.
That we are sitting on, yeah.
I didn't know about this one, though.
I spoke with Noam Chomsky about human speech and the spiritual dimension of human speech. And actually, we discussed the fact that Unkelis...
Just to remind you, we're running a campaign, and the...
yeah.
I'm saying
I should hit him up for a donation?
No, you're at risk of hopefully not losing some of our conservative demographic.
Chaim, if you don't call attention to it, nobody's going to know it.
I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
That 2 weeks ago, I had a dream. I woke up laughing from a dream, playing out, doing this thing with you.
Yeah.
And
2 weeks ago already you were dreaming about tonight?
No, I was getting...
And you had reverse deja vu?
Yes, and now it was about what if something political comes up, because I went to bed before that. I was listening to this thing you recorded with a rabbi from Israel, and
Yeah,
it
with
got
Asi
political.
Spiegel.
It got political at one
Yes.
point. So I guess in my head that was playing out,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, so what if something of political implication comes
Do you
up?
realize
and then
that
how am I gonna
nobody
take
would have
that?
noticed that this is political except for the fact that you've been making hay of it for the past 2 minutes?
Okay. All right, you and Chomsky. Let's go back.
Anyways,
Speech.
yeah. Did you know that onkelos on the verb, on the verse that in Bereshis, when it says how Hashem created Adam, the first human being, it says he breathed within him a soul of life, and onkelos translates that as a soul of speech. That human life is synonymous with speech. Other life forms, they can make sounds and they can communicate in a very concrete way. The food is over there. Let's go run over there. But they can't speak about abstract concepts. In other words, they cannot describe things that have never been seen. They cannot imagine and then share their vision with others, and that's uniquely human. And by the way, that's what SoulWords is all about.
That's exactly where I was going with it.
SoulWords is
you
the
posted
soul
a
is the
teaser.
abstract ideas. The words are the containers that allow me to move those ideas from me to you.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention something, by the way. I was at the aisle today. On the way over here, I went to the aisle to daven for the success of the campaign. Today was Chav Bei Shvat, the 22nd day of the month of Shvat, which is the yahrzeit of the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka. And I just want to mention something. At the end of her Shiva, the Rebbe spoke about her and said how one of the things she accomplished in her lifetime was similar to what her forebearer, the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, Rav Shner Zalman Miladi, accomplished. When the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, was in prison, he was interrogated by non-Jewish interrogators, and one of the things is they were asking about the teachings of Chassidus, and he had to explain himself. And not only did he explain himself well enough to be acquitted, but in the end, as he wrote to Rav Levi Yitzchak Berdichever in a famous letter after his release, that the non-Jewish ministers who were part of the legal proceedings were impressed with the teachings of Chassidus, and they saw that these are good teachings and that it's a good thing that somebody's teaching them. So that I mentioned, similarly, his wife, Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, during the trial about the Lubavitch library, there was a deposition where she was asked to explain some things about how do you know it's not a personal heirloom, the library, how do you know it doesn't belong to the family? And she was able to convey very deep concepts about the nature of the role of a Rebbe and his relationship with Chassidim. And she said, how do I know the books belong to the Chassidim? My father himself belonged to the Chassidim. And the point is that, and by the way, speaking in English, which was not her first, second, or probably even third language, Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, speaking in English, she was able to convey powerfully this very rarefied concept in a way that was compelling that a non-Jewish judge should hear it and say, makes perfect sense, and let's rule accordingly. So I just want to say, it's very appropriate, Chav Bei Shvat, the yahrzeit of Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, she was somebody who took the deepest ideas and was successful in conveying them in English so that even the non-Jewish world would be able to relate to it and agree with it. And I think it's fitting that what we're doing with SoulWords, taking abstract, lofty spiritual ideas and putting it into down-to-earth language, that our campaign should start on the day of her yahrzeit.
Yeah, that is fitting. Is it you when you posted like a teaser for the weekend, and you sort of broke down SoulWords, and you just alluded and you spoke about that, and the sort of slogan that we're running with, and that is what is SoulWords? Spiritual ideas in down to earth language.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember.
I believe so. And is it, I wonder if that isn't totally obvious as that being a appropriate thing. Meaning, the idea that soul ideas warrant bringing it, being spoken about in down-to-earth language. I'll tell you what I'm getting to. Tomorrow there's a segment about entitled "I'm Not a Therapist."
Right. Is that tomorrow?
Or I'm not a psychologist.
It's one of these nights. Okay.
And sometimes I wonder if the confusion is almost...
By the way, I'm not.
You're not.
It's not sarcastic. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist.
Because we got some Q&A stuff, but
I know.
some of that is going to have to wait. But you know what? Let's table that. Let's table this. I'm getting looks.
You're getting looks.
I'm
Okay,
getting
fine.
looks.
All right.
I want to go back. Oh, the campaign is running, and we are at 45,000, and this is we're running over through Thursday night, and we'd like to see if we can get to 125,000 tonight, probably more, but this way we can keep steady and get to our goal in time, and who knows, maybe even bonus rounds. So I'd like to encourage everyone to find the team that is closest to their interest or friends, or just go to the campaign and donate and help this work get to everyone who needs it. And I think I'd like to read a few donations, but we have some testimonials I wanted to read. Are those on the screen? Yeah. This is number 4. Rabbi Taub's ever practical and captivating lessons helped me strengthen my connection with Hashem and deepen my love for His Torah. Listening to the Shaar HaBitachon podcast each morning empowered me to put me in the right frame of mind to accomplish my goals, even through struggles of the day-to-day. Rabbi Taub's view on chinuch and the role of parents and teachers in educating the next generation are refreshing and honest, and ignited within me a will to do better for my students. I'm so thankful to have found SoulWords and for the kind of leadership and guidance that Rabbi Taub exemplifies. That's beautiful. So we want to get to Shaar HaBitachon, and if I could just ask you, generally speaking, and we have a few guests tonight and that I want to ask some questions to with relating to Shaar HaBitachon. If I can summarize a question that has been coming up generally, how does one achieve a rock-solid trust in Hashem and speak to the difference between Amunah and Bitachon, and perhaps some of the typical obstacles to faith, and speak to how faith can change one's life and reach everlasting peace and emotional freedom. This is a lot of things.
It's a long question.
It's a long question.
Multi-part
It's
question.
more of a comment. Really. Take it away, Rabbi Taub.
Okay.
Give us faith.
Yeah, David, we're good? Yeah? All right. Okay. David Weinbaum lets me know that everything is good. All right. Of course, Bitachon lets me know everything is good. But let's talk about this. Shaar HaBitachon has been around for 900 years. It's a section of Chayvis Levavis, Duties of the Heart, written by Rabbeinu Bechaya, who was a great rabbi who lived in Spain almost a millennium ago. And lately it's enjoyed a resurgence of popularity. Now, I want to mention tonight one of our matchers, because they have a very strong connection to the resurgence of popularity of Shaar HaBitachon. Many people are probably aware of Chayenu, which is a weekly Torah journal. Chayenu put out a version of Shaar HaBitachon with English translation and very impressively, very extensive comments, especially comments from built from the works of Chassidus, and a lot from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this book, it's a white book called Gate of Trust. It's called the Felag edition. So I want to mention Getzi and Eliza Felag, who are good friends of SoulWords and who are matchers on this campaign, because they were really the ones who pushed that book to come out. And many people are now learning Shaar HaBitachon because of that work. Now, when I started to become involved, it was also actually before that book was published. Chayena was slipping me PDFs before they actually published it. And if you watched Shaar HaBitachon, a lot of people listen to it on the podcast platforms where it's just audio. But if you watch Shaar HaBitachon, the videos, either on soulwords.org or on YouTube, so you can see the text on the screen. You know where I got that text? That's from the PDFs. Oh, yeah, bring it over here. Sure. Please. Thank you. Okay, it's all right if they see you. It's all right. Nobody thinks that this thing runs by itself. Yeah, this is Shaar HaBitachon, the Felag edition. Very good. Thank you. So, yeah, Chayena was slipping me PDFs to use as the text to post on the screen so people could learn along with me. And that was part of the thing. That Shaar HaBitachon, the class that I gave, was text-based. I wanted everyone to be able to learn every single word of the holy text. Now, how it came about was during the heart of lockdown. I saw that people were all on Zoom all day long and learning like on an unprecedented level. I also saw that people were stressed and they needed something to hold on to. So I said, put the two together. Everybody's home watching Zoom and they're looking for something to give them grounding. I said, we got to do Shaar HaBitachon. And my particular inspiration, why I got into it, is because a friend of mine, Levi Shem Tov from Detroit, who's the original founder of the Friendship Circle, his father, Mendel Shem Tov Olav Shalom, received a letter from the Rebbe. He was a young man. He was concerned about his health, and he wrote to the Rebbe. And I guess the tone of his letter was somewhat fearful. And the Rebbe wrote him back and said, you learn, but when it comes to trust in Hashem, where's your trust? And then the Rebbe gave him advice and said, what you need to do is learn Shaar HaBitachon from Chavis Levovis and learn it a few times. And I don't just mean to just repeat it, in rapid succession, but let it soak in and learn it again, and then soak in and learn it again. So that was my inspiration, actually, is that letter to Mendel Shem Tov. And we taught that every night, 30-minute classes during lockdown, during the heart of lockdown. And I remember on my birthday, Chof Aleph Sivan, you can send me a gift, we had I think we'd finally just finished, or we were getting close to finishing the series, and I went to the oil for my birthday. And this was still when the streets were very quiet. There was barely anyone driving out on the roads. And the oil was very, very quiet. There was barely anyone there. In fact, when I went there was only one other person there. And there was a woman, so she was on the other side, on the woman's side. And why did I even notice that? Because as I was leaving, she left and she followed me. She said, Rabbi Tom, I want to tell you something. In your class, you mentioned something about what kind of job a person needs to take. And she said, I was struggling with an offer for a job, which was a very good job. It was a government job and had a lot of benefits, but it wasn't on a personal level, it wasn't really compatible with my goals in life. And I was very conflicted about it, and I didn't know what to do. And I was watching your class, and all of a sudden you said, and you don't have to work for the government. Now, why did I say that? There's a line in Shaar HaBitachon where Rabbeinu Bechaya says that you don't have to work for the melucha, for the kingship, for the kingdom. And so I try to, SoulWords, spiritual wisdom and down-to-earth language. So I tried to translate it into contemporary language. I said, you don't have to work for the government. And she took that as like her, now I'm not taking responsibility for that, but she took that as her message. So she follows me out of the oil on my birthday, Chof Aleph Sivan, and she says, I took that as my message, that I don't have to take that job. And I'm so glad to have that clarity. And she says, and thank you for being inspired. And I don't even know why she said this, because I only mentioned it once. She said, thank you for being inspired by the Rebbe's letter to Mendel Shem Tov. And I told you, she was following me out of the oil. And I don't know how familiar people are with the different graves that are near the oil, but I had already walked out and she had followed me. I'd already made it maybe 20 feet away from the oil by the time she caught up with me. And she said, "Thank you for taking to heart that letter to Mendel Shem Tov." And I turned around, and I was standing right in front of the matzeva of Mendel Shem Tov, which was like 20, 30 feet away from the aisle, and on my birthday. And it was kind of uncanny. At any rate, very briefly, the question you asked was about faith and trust. So how can I confine something like that into a few short words? And the question was longer than that, but one of the parts of the question was about faith and trust. Faith and trust sound, emunah and bitachon, they sound very related, and they are related. So if I were to use my own words for it, I might say that faith is cerebral and bitachon is visceral. I don't know if that's helpful for anyone, if you have to look up those words as well. But meaning, faith is cerebral. It's idea-based. Bitachon is visceral. It's in your kishkis. It's something that you feel. When you have bitachon, you breathe more easily. Your body is more relaxed. That's bitachon. It's not just the knowing, it's the feeling. And feeling it in your body. Now, the Ramban, Nachmanides, explains this with a metaphor, a beautiful metaphor. He wrote a treatise on emunah and bitachon. And he says like this: the difference between emunah and bitachon is like the difference between trees and fruit. Not all trees grow fruit, but every fruit grew from a tree. What does that mean? Emunah is like the tree and bitachon is like the fruit. If you have emunah, meaning you have an intellectual conception of belief in God, God is the creator, God is the director, that may remain on a purely conceptual level. In other words, you'll know it, you'll believe it. If someone will ask you if you could explain it, you'll be able to explain it, and you'll even believe that it's true. But that's just faith, meaning it's ideas. Bitachon is like the fruits from the tree, where you actually feel it, where you let go and you actually have that sense of security and well-being and serenity, tranquility that runs through you. So not all trees grow fruits. Not everyone who has faith and believes in God will have that sense of well-being. But if you find somebody who has the fruits, for sure it grew from a tree. If you find someone who has that sense of well-being and emotional security, that bitachon surely emerged from a faith, from an understanding of God as explained in works like Shaar HaBitachon. And so basically, that's what we endeavored to do in our study of Shaar HaBitachon. There are many ways of approaching the Sefer, but what we tried to do was take an intellectual approach. After all, it is Torah study, so it's primarily an intellectual endeavor. We tried to study the work, understand what it's saying, to increase our understanding of the mechanics of faith, why things work the way they do, how we can get a glimpse of the methodology behind the way that the world is actually running, that there is a director to it all, and then, but from there, to try to internalize it so it should affect us emotionally. And, Rabbeinu Bechaya does it in his style, which was for his place and time. One of the hardest parts of Shaar HaBitachon for most readers is the section about the alchemist, because an alchemist is a very anachronistic metaphor. In Spain, 900 years ago, alchemist was a wonderful metaphor, and it made the point really, really clearly, and Rabbeinu Bechaya's audience immediately got it. In our day and age, alchemy is something of an anachronism, so that was one of the things that I worked with, is how would I make that relatable, because after all, that's the whole point. It's not just knowing, it's feeling. And in order to make that journey from head to heart, we need down-to-earth, relatable language. We need to speak about these lofty ideas using the same words we do in our day-to-day conversation. And that was really the goal. That's hopefully what happened. We had amazing feedback from people who took that journey with us. It was a 45-lesson journey, and people are continuing to learn Shaar HaBitachon on SoulWords and on YouTube and on Spotify and all the platforms where we have our content. So that's definitely something that I'm grateful to have been involved in.
We have a guest live on Zoom who has some things to share with us, and I have some questions to ask him as it relates to Shaar HaBitachon and how that impacted him. We have our live guest. Do you hear me? I'm assuming they, because I can't. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Now I do. Now I do. You're coming through great.
Oh, look at that.
Okay. Our guest is Moshe Weinbaum.
Yep, that's me.
And you're speaking to us from Long Beach, California?
You got it.
All right, cool. All right, I was wondering if I'd recognize your face. I recognize the name. Okay. Could you just, first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Sure. My name is Manchi. I live in California, and I spend most of my day as a coach helping people and enjoying the journey of connecting with people and trying to help them as they go through their life journey.
Interesting. And how has the work of SoulWords, Rabbi Taub, affected you or benefited you?
I've used SoulWords. I use it constantly. I'm currently learning a minor every morning with Rabbi Taub, one-on-one. It's a great experience. And I use it for holidays. I use it for, there's tremendous resources on it. Whether you're learning a sifra, a minor, studying on the parsha, and I am constantly using it whenever I can.
All right, cool. And there's a lot of content available, a lot of resources online. Is there something specifically that you find from SoulWords and the topics covered that resonates with you?
Well, as a coach, I use it to help people, but I also send people there. Rabbi Taub was talking about Shaar HaBitachon. I could tell you endless stories of people that have given feedback to me after sending them to use Shaar HaBitachon. I'll share one quick story where it was COVID, and I was working with someone, and they were struggling, and they were in a different country, and lockdowns were going on constantly, and I suggested Shaar HaBitachon. So, anyways, they used it, didn't get back to me for a while. After a number of months, we connected, and they said life is going really, really well. And they even told me that they went through lockdown again, and they were doing great. And I was really proud of myself. I said I'd done a great job. And I said, so what was the catch? And you have no idea what Shaar HaBitachon has done. No coach will ever accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's some big words. Thank you very much for coming on, Maishi. Really appreciate it.
It's really a pleasure, and thank you for everything he does.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
That's something I noticed the last 2 years working with you on the campaign, Rabbi Taub, that there's certainly a high number of people who are in the business in one form or another, whether they're rabbis or shluchim or people in chinuch, people in influence who are able to capture your work in a way that is able to be of direct benefit to other people that they are able to impart that message with.
Mm-hmm. Can I make a quick comment about that?
Yeah.
I know you have a guest coming on, but to me, the greatest role that I can fill is to be the behind-the-scenes guy who gives words or ideas to people who go then and take those and implement it and let them be the face, let them be the presenter and the teacher. So I get a distinct pleasure from hearing about how somebody who is in some type of helping role or teaching role is using my material and then repackaging it and using it with the people they work with. So that's, to me, that's the greatest. When you make something and people use it.
Nachas.
The greatest nachas is when you make something and people actually use it. To me, what's a very special way of people using what I'm putting out there is they take it and they teach it to others. So, yeah, Baruch Hashem, that is something I'm very happy about.
When you're able to impart something in a way because it's your own, so the person hearing it can make it their own, and therefore they're able to.
By the way, that's a paradox, because people think that if you make it your own too much, then no one else will be able to use it. It's not true. Mm-hmm. Specific is universal. When I'm presenting it, if I say it in words that are idiosyncratic to me, meaning that that's just the way that my quirky way of thinking, that actually, I've seen it, will end up on the user end being something that they can then turn into something that's unique to them, and then hopefully that continues as a chain reaction on and on. So, by the way, don't ever be afraid of saying something in a weird way that only you would say it that way, because that's ultimately the only way for it to really land is when you say it in a way that is uniquely meaningful to you. Then the listener gets it, and then they'll repackage it, and they'll say it in a way that's uniquely meaningful to them, and on and on and on and on.
Thank you. We have a in-studio guest, and I don't know if you can see this, but if you've been at your local Haredi Shabbos meal over the last few years, you may have come across this. I mean, whatever. If you're in the Beyond Tri-State, we're going to hear more in a moment, but what I'm holding here is a sampler of the Pop Insanity popcorn, and with me, it's all the rage, and we're going to hear some details about it. With me is the creator of Pop Insanity, who's kind enough to come and join us in the studio, Aaron Zutler. And first of all, I heard a little bit about Pop Insanity, but what got you involved with Rabbi Taub and SoulWords? And
well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. And I don't want to take all the credit for Pop Insanity, because Baruch Hashem, I have two amazing partners. So I have to give credit where credit is due. But most importantly, Pop Insanity B'chalal, now looking back, is a story of HaBitachon and Siyata D'Shmaya. And the reason why I say that is, where did the concept come from? And the concept basically came from the fact that one of my partners, who's a chef, who's a foodie, decided to open a restaurant or a cafe. And long story short, 3 days before it was supposed to open, he couldn't open the building. There was a problem. So his lawyer told him, instead of having judgments against you, return all the equipment. It was his life savings he put into this. And everybody, he negotiated with all the vendors, everybody allowed him to return the unused equipment, except the one nasty vendor who said, I'm sorry, the popcorn machine, final sale. I'm not taking it back. And today I sit here, 7 years later, with a popcorn company where we're sold all over the United States and different parts of the world. So the concept of I'm not in charge here started, Baruch Hashem, years ago. I have great, my upbringing. I always knew, but Bitachon Emunah was not an epiphany. But I knew about it. Today, it's in my bones. I live it because part and parcel of Rabbi Taub. Because when I was, this business didn't, I didn't have no big, investors, big credit lines. I borrowed from Chaim to pay Moshe, and then I borrowed a little bit here, and then, it was a process.
But specifically, you had a problem that gave birth to this blessing.
Exactly. So I guess you can call lemonade out of lemon juice. Here we saw that this was a loss, and in fact, we turned it into something that. But getting back to my Shaar HaBitachon, first of all, the reason really why I'm here is because it's not often that I have the opportunity to give Hakaras HaTov in person to somebody that inspired me, or an author, or a Maggid Shir. Bitachon was always something that I wanted to understand better. Everything's Baruch Hashem. It's all nice, but internalizing it is something of a whole nother game. And I was searching for something, and when I came across Rabbi Taub's Shaar HaBitachon series, it was amazing because not only, and you do have a good sense of humor, not only was it the concept, but I also was able to see the Tzuras Hadaf. So if I'm in an airport so I don't always have to have my safe or whatever. So it was listening to the concept, but also seeing it inside because it's very important to see it inside. So I went through that series, and I've learned lots of things other than just the concept of Emunah, the concept of Bitachon. There seems to be the fact that on the Hishtadlus side, you have to, sometimes we're working on fumes, Hishtadlus, but at the end of the day, all the effort that I put in there has nothing to do with the sales that we've done, the relationships that we had, the opportunities that we have. And I just learned, actually, I was reviewing it in class number 23. I don't remember which parak in HaBitachon, but the concept of where we talk about refuah. Yes, you have to go the natural way. Yes, you have to go to specialists. Yes, you have to take the right medication. Yes, you have to exercise. But the Ribono Shel Olam is the one, you could do all those things, but at the end of the day, the Ribono Shel Olam is the one who makes those decisions. And I found, because Baruch Hashem, we've been to there's a lot going on, I'm a different guy. I take things, and it's difficult and it's continuous work. But at the end of the day, the classes that I learned and the other limudim that I have in this topic is a real life changer and a game changer. And I recommend it. It really is very, very important because especially in today's crazy times, how could you do this any other way?
It's like constant recalibration because our natural state of thinking is not quite that way.
And I could write a book on all in my business.
Powerfully. And you got on at one point to Oprah's favorite things for Pop Insanity. So I would love to say that everyone gets Pop Insanity. Everyone gets but actually, Aaron told me just before we came on that he brought 10 of these beautiful sampler packs, and the next 10 donations that come in from now, for anywhere over 250, which is an effective donation of 500 or more. So it's 847. Whoever donates the next 10 donations that come in over $500 for an effective donation will get one of these.
Absolutely. And not only that, all the listeners and Rabbi Taub's followers, if they go to the website and they use coupon code SoulWords, they'll get 10% off.
10% off. So if you
Shalach Manas, we have
beautiful.
Plenty of options.
It's a lot of stuff to stock up on before Purim. Get 10% off. Use coupon code SoulWords at Pop Insanity on their website. And again, for the next 10 people, you'll get one of these. Beautiful. Everybody, assuming you're one of the next 10, gets Pop Insanity. Aaron, thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right. We got some Q&As. So I guess I should have had the earpiece, right? Because now I got to read all this. Okay. We have Bitachon. Could I do a Bitachon question, or are we going straight to a financial update? Bitachon question.
Okay.
Sometimes my Bitachon is
We did not rehearse this.
No. And it's not made up either. I wanted to do that, but we didn't.
You want to do made-up Bitachon questions?
Not necessarily Bitachon, but I did want to
Make some
Yeah.
made-up questions. Okay. This is a real one that came in. Oh, and by the way, because David told me to remember to do this, I actually told David to remind me to do it, and he reminded me, and now I'm remembering. If people want to ask questions about any of our topics, this is only our first topic, is Bitachon. And then in the next hour, we're going to do Tanya. And then tomorrow night, we have 2 more topics. And Wednesday night, we have 2 more topics. We have 2 topics every night until Thursday. So if you, and the schedule is somewhere. I don't know, soulwords.org/live. You could probably see it there. Yeah, you can. But at any rate, if you want to ask questions about any of our topics, they should email rabbi@soulwords.org, or you send it to me? Okay, either they should email rabbi@soulwords.org if you have questions. When are we doing the Q&A, David? Do you remember? No, like the whole section
doing
is
it
just
throughout.
Q&A. I know we're doing Q&A throughout, but one of the nights there's a whole hour just of Q&A.
Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday. Okay, fine.
And they could also send questions to the WhatsApp, the SoulWords WhatsApp, which is 516-495-3021. Could we do a quick financial update?
But we didn't do the talking question.
All right. Okay.
I'm sorry I threw you off with the...
No.
Yeah.
I don't really like this question, but it's a question. Sometimes
Reb Aaron's hanging out in the studio with us, right? He didn't run away, right? Reb Aaron's still hanging out.
Yeah, we need to make good on that pop insanity.
I don't want you to leave before I get to thank you personally, because. Okay, all right.
Sometimes my bitachon is so strong, Baruch Hashem, that I don't feel the need to daven. Why ask Hashem to help me when I know He is already helping? If this is okay, then why is tefillah such an important part of Yiddishkeit?
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question.
It is.
Okay. So I have a couple of answers to that. First of all, who says that davening is just about asking for your needs? In other words, if all your needs were taken care of, would you still call home? Would you still call your Father in heaven and connect? Of course you would. That's a rhetorical question, by the way. Of course you would. So even if all your needs are met, you can still daven. That's one answer. But it's not a complete answer, because the way the question was phrased was specifically about the aspect of davening, which is requesting for our needs to be met. And I'll say like this. I don't think this person is asking me whether or not they need to daven Shemona Esrei 3 times a day. I don't think they're asking me if they should stop davening from the Siddur. I think what they're saying is, above and beyond the tefillahs, which the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, which the men of the Great Assembly redacted, should I be involved in beseeching Hashem in my own words, on my own time, asking Hashem, entreating Hashem to meet my needs? And what should I do about the fact that because my bitachon is, the person says, is very strong in their letter, that I'm not feeling that need to beg so much? And I would answer you and say like this. You know, I mentioned earlier that especially this book, The Gate of Trust, a lot of what's unique about it has a lot of the Lubavitcher Rebbe's sichas integrated into the commentary. The way that Rebbe explained bitachon is that it's not just a state of mind or even a state of feeling where one is able to be secure and confident. It's that, yes, but in addition, it's actually a powerful tool. Bitachon has an effect. Bitachon accomplishes something. In other words, bitachon isn't just to keep you calm while you're waiting for something to change. Bitachon actually creates change. Tracht gut, wird sein gut, in the words of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad. And the Rebbe quoted that often. In other words, the feeling of security that all my needs are being met is itself an effective way of drawing down, of eliciting those blessings in a revealed way. So what I would answer this person is, who says that your bitachon isn't accomplishing that which you normally would use or others might use tefillah to accomplish? So you're not missing out anything. Indeed, it could even be that your bitachon is a more direct path to bringing those blessings into your life. So you shouldn't feel any religious guilt that, oh, I'm not davening with enough desperation. You know what? Having real bitachon, that itself is a spiritual tool, in many ways an incredibly effective tool. And if that's the way you're bringing the blessings down, okay, so you'll do it that way, and then you don't need to daven. As I said, I don't think this person is asking if they should stop davening Shachar Mincha Ma'ariv. Obviously, we daven what it says in the Siddur, but I think what they were asking is above and beyond, should they feel this desperation to beg Hashem for their needs? And what I'd answer you is, you're accomplishing it already through your bitachon.
Even with the parking spot, you could pray.
That was a reference to a joke. Yeah. People don't know, if they're tuning in the first time, that Chaim and I have a pastime of just saying the punchlines to jokes and then not filling in the joke. Yeah, so that was the first time that happened during these 4 days. Very good.
We're going to go to a Tanya segment, but first, we reached 50,000.
Oh.
We did.
Baruch Hashem.
And I'm hoping that we have a little over an hour to go for tonight. Obviously, the campaign is running throughout the week, but I would love if we can reach 100,000 before we close it out for tonight at 10 o'clock. So if you're listening, if you are someone who has personally benefited from Rabbi Taub's work, I encourage you to donate, and really any amount. There's very big donations, but any amount is a message of affirming that this work resonates, that this work lands, and that is very meaningful, and enables Rabbi Taub to continue this work. And could you give us a little background, some of the behind the scenes of what goes in to making the content that's out there? Because someone just is on YouTube, sees something suggested, someone comes across it on a website or WhatsApp.
I wish that they would see content suggested.
Can I show you what I got on my YouTube suggestions right now when I opened it?
Are you that bold to publicly share your YouTube suggestions?
This is another thing that we do sometimes. So
I don't know if we could all handle it.
Okay, I got, when I open up this campaign, so on my right, I see text space Tanya.
Oh, nice.
7 hours ago. That means that with all this going on, this morning, you recorded your weekly Tanya share.
I did. Monday morning, 11 a.m., Levi Yitzchok Library on Central Avenue in Cedarhurst. We have a weekly women's text-based Tanya share. And I was at that class this morning. I wouldn't miss it for the world. By the way, many times I've been like at a speaking engagement and, out of town, and I've flown back like the 6 a.m. flight on Monday in order to get to LaGuardia. I live much closer to JFK, but most of the domestic flights are LaGuardia, and like land at like 9 o'clock, and then like hurry to the Tanya share. Yeah.
If I knew you just on a personal basis, not knowing you in terms of what you do as a rabbi, I wouldn't peg you as a scheduled consistency type of guy.
Yeah.
Because I like you, and usually I don't tend to like those
Type A personalities.
And I sort of forgive the fact that you are very consistent about your commitments. But what is that like for you?
I show up late for class.
Okay, all right. So you're still
to be
used
to the being disorganized. Yeah.
But like, I could set my clock. To this Monday.
I'm not good at long-term commitments. I'm really not. My whole life, I'm like a project guy. Like I get into like Shaar HaBitachon. So that was like 45 classes, boom, it was perfect. Or like the Rebbe's letters, 30 letters in 30 days, perfect, 30 days. Like wasn't, this Tanya class that I'm doing now, I think is on week 59. And it wasn't that we had a class every single week because sometimes you miss for like Jewish holidays and whatnot. So it's been going on for like a year and a half. But you know what keeps me going? Is the text of Tanya. You can't walk away from it. It's a process. Tanya is a process. Tanya is not a book. It's an experience. So once you're locked in, it's like once the roller coaster starts clicking up the ramp, that's it. You have to finish the ride. So they have me at least until we... By the way, I should mention that my classes at Chabad of the Five Towns, we finished Tanya once before already. There's actually 2 versions of the Tanya class that we have online. One version is not text-based; it's overviews, and we finished that, and now we're doing the text-based, which is obviously taking longer.
And that's besides you have I think it's on in podcast or Spotify on form, in audio form, like a actual recorded overview of the Tanya, which is like an audio.
The 3-hour
guide.
one.
Yeah,
we did that in Sydney, Australia, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and that's available.
Maybe even longer
in podcast form. I want to read this testimonial. If we have time, you want to see my next YouTube recommendations?
Should we do a testimonial or one of Chaim's YouTube recommendations?
What do people want? All right, we'll do a testimonial. There's nothing wrong with it. It's Zero Mostel on Dick Cavett, 1971.
Okay.
And if you want, I think I know.
By the way, I think you're the one who started making Dick Cavett pop up on my YouTube. No, I'm serious. Because, like, anytime I'll WhatsApp you, which I think is owned by Meta, and I guess YouTube's owned by Google. I don't know, but they're all
in on it.
They're all in on it, yeah. So, usually after I'm finished with a WhatsApp conversation with you, I will see Dick Cavett pop up on my YouTube recommendations.
Yeah. And I'll see.
I saw Norman Mailer yelling at Gore Vidal.
That I say.
On Dick Cavett. That was you.
I think I say.
And by the way, Norman Mailer grew up on an apartment building on Crown in Albany, which is a couple blocks from here.
Wow. That's so surprising considering his violent behavior.
Okay, we're going to read one of the testimonials.
Yeah, Rabbi Taub gave me...
do they know which one it is?
Oh, number 7.
You got to tell the crew which number
number 7.
it is.
Put it on the screen. Rabbi Taub gave me a clear understanding of Hasidus. In his words, I find empathy to my pain and feel empowered to get past my own painful experiences. He showed me how to go deeper into my inner self that is pure and find value in my existence. I can now see some light in a world that often feels so dark. There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
And specifically that I find empathy to my pain and feel empowered to get past my own painful experiences. And that's...
Can I speak to that for a second?
A few words, but yeah.
Okay, remember what I was saying before about the style of teaching, that just say it in the way that's most personally relevant to you, and then that will be what resonates with others. Like if you try to pander and you try to speak to the lowest common denominator and you try to say things in a way that will resonate with everybody, it's not going to resonate with anybody. But if you just say it the way that you say it in your own head, when you're talking to yourself and when you're trying to like calm yourself down and you say that to other people, that's what lands with them. And what you're saying here about somebody's listening to my classes online and they're finding empathy in it. Okay. Empathy in what? It's very interesting. It's a one-way thing. I can't hear when you speak to the screen. I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on in their life. They're calling me empathetic, but the truth is I'm just talking and they're feeling understood. How does that work? But I'll explain to you how it works. Whatever I'm teaching, whether it's Tanya, Shaar, HaBitachon, it's Parsha, doesn't matter. I'm only teaching things that have had a direct effect on me, things that I am using in my life to get through my life. So everything I'm teaching has very personal meaning to me. And it's interesting that when you share stuff like that, then the listener does the same thing and hears it in a way that they apply it in a personal way to whatever's going on in their life. Because otherwise the comment doesn't even make sense. How do they hear empathy from me when I'm just speaking into a camera? But I think what they're saying is, I think, is that I hope that they're recognizing the fact that we are fellow travelers on a spiritual path, that when I'm learning, it's because this is what I'm working on, and anyone who's out there listening to my share, on whatever platform they're listening to, they're on their spiritual path, and there's that feeling of being kindred spirits, of being connected, like, okay, there are other people who are also working, there are other people who are also trying to find their way and just be a little bit better today and find a little bit more clarity today. And I think that's what people discover. At least that's, I hope, what people discover. And that may also be why that although you're getting a disproportionate amount of YouTube recommendations from SoulWords, I don't think everyone gets SoulWords recommendations, because I do believe the people who end up gravitating toward this content, I said before, this is a niche offering. The people who end up finding this content, the algorithm is very smart. I got to tell you something. The algorithm is smart. The algorithm knows which people are the seekers, which people are really in earnest looking for spiritual healing, and that's what I'm doing in my own life and sort of putting it out there on camera, and I think that's what people are discovering. At least that's how I understand it. At least that's how I hope it is.
They may, according to what we now understand about these algorithms, they may know it before you do.
That's right. That's right.
But so he also writes in this testimonial that the empathy that his pain is real and felt and validated, and yet the empowerment to get past that. And there's I mean, words that could be deserve to be parsed out, but how exactly are you able to, that's something that could take years to go through a period of validating one's pain, and then,
Right, you have to validate someone for 10 years before you can even suggest to them to
well, I don't mean that tongue in cheek. I mean,
I don't either.
Process.
I'm not joking. I'm being serious.
Yeah, and yet
I learned it from the Rebbe. By the way, what night are we doing a whole lesson on the Rebbe's letters? Do you remember which night that is? Which night is the Rebbe's letters topic?
Pull up the schedule.
It's one of the. We gotta have the schedule open over here. One of the nights, one of the topics is the Rebbe's letters.
Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday.
Sure.
So I learned this from the Rebbe. The Rebbe's letters is a very interesting combination of two very palpable energies: empathy and empowerment, and they go together. So on one hand, validation. It's like, yes, I hear your pain, and it's totally valid, and this is a sacred space for you to be able to express whatever it is that you're feeling, and it's all true and it's all real. At least for you, it's your real experience. And at the same time, very quickly, within the same letter, within a line, it'll be like, and now what are you going to do about it? Now get to work. The world is waiting for you to step up. And it's almost like, in some places you see this explicitly. Because of your pain, that's why you have so much work to do. Because there's no teacher like life experience. And if you've experienced challenges and setbacks and adversity, then you need to step up and you need to share that clarity with others.
And that's, I think, an important. I would get very triggered. I hate to, I know it's an abused word at this point, but for someone to be, as it relates to emotional pain, go for a yes, but but still, but don't get carried away there with your pain, because it's not really so. But if it's no, pain is real, and precisely because of that,
because it's real, right?
Yeah, and that is a unique space to be in, and really can only be a message that could be imparted if one has lived there. And I believe that is a lot of why your work is impactful as it is. I want to get to the Tanya, and my notes here, based on, again, this is a lot of Q&A, which people can send, and we're going to get to throughout the week. Inner conflicts, and specifically, how to use self-understanding in your daily life.
Inner conflicts and how to use self-understanding in your daily life. Okay.
Understanding the character of your soul, navigating inner conflicts, and how to use the self-understanding in your daily life.
Okay, that was a question. All right, fine.
More of a comment, really, but I guess this is what
people are asking. Okay. In other words, let me just try to understand the question. The question is, all right, here's a bunch of information. what do I do with it? Like, how do you use it? I think that's what it's saying. It's interesting because Tanya, actually, it's a book that I've studied many, many times. I continue studying it, continue teaching it. Every time I go through it, it has deeper meaning to me. And I can tell you that there's a certain epiphany that many people have before Tanya even tells you to do anything. Tanya is a book of spiritual tools. It's a how-to manual. But I've seen it time and again that there's an epiphany, there's just a relief that people have before Tanya even teaches you how to do anything about your condition. And it's the relief that comes from just the fact that Tanya has described your condition. There's a word from Levi Yitzchak Berditchever, who was the mechutin of the Alter Rebbe, about Rivka, the biblical Rebecca. She was pregnant with twins, and they were fighting in her womb, Yaakov and Esau, the biblical Jacob and Esau. But she didn't know it was twins, and so she went to the prophet in her time, and she asked, what's going on? And he said, you're pregnant with twins, and they're fighting. And then she was relieved. So the Berditchever says, well, what was so relieving about finding out their sibling rivalry already starting in the womb? And he explains that she didn't understand when she would walk by the yeshiva, or Shem Ve'ever, she would feel her baby jumping to want to join the Torah study. But then when she would walk by a Beis Avodah Zarah, a temple of idolatry, she would feel what she thought was the same baby jumping to try to join the idol worship. And she thought she had one baby who was very confused. One minute he wants holiness, the next minute he wants depravity. And then she was relieved to find out, no, they're two different babies, each with their own nature. And the Berditchever explains that a person who doesn't know about the Shtei Nefashos, the two souls, which is, by the way, not the Alter Rebbe's Chiddush. The Alter Rebbe actually even calls himself the Malakit, the compiler of Tanya. These are ideas that predate Chassidus. So the two souls doctrine, that's actually from Lurianic Kabbalah. That's from the Eitz Chaim of Chaim Vital, who was the premier disciple of the Arizal. And the idea is that a person who doesn't even know he has two souls, he's sitting there, he's thinking to himself, like, what's wrong with me? I'm such a hypocrite. I'm a liar. I'm a faker. Like, what is this? 1 minute, I want to do good things, and I'm excited about doing good things. And then the next minute, just the most coarse temptations all of a sudden are pulling at me and speaking to me. Like, what's wrong with me? And when you learn Tanya and you find out, well, hold on a second. It's not one baby who's confused. It's two babies with two very different natures. You have two souls. You're not a hypocrite. You're not a faker. You're not a liar. You have two drives. You have a godly drive. You have an animalistic drive. So in answer to that question, yes, Tanya is about spiritual tools, like how to mitigate that conflict and how to manage that conflict. But before it even gets to that, I think that there's power just in understanding that there is a conflict, and that can already be very healing and bring a lot of relief. Does that answer that question? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay,
I think it
thank
speaks
you.
to that.
Thank you, Chaim.
I think there's a clip that I want to play. Do we have a clip ready to go? Yeah.
They say, what do you get for the man who has everything? Penicillin. What do you get for Hashem? Hashem has everything. You know how hard it must be to shop for Hashem? So what do you get for Hashem who has and is everything? What doesn't he have, kaviyachol, so to speak, as it were, after a fashion? Can God create a boulder so heavy that even he cannot lift it? Well, I don't know the answer to that, and I don't even know where that comes from. But I'll share with you a paradox that Chassidus discusses, which is Hashem creates a world by concealing himself, and then desires to be let into that world. But how can he be let into that world without canceling out that world? You see, in order to create it, as we said, he concealed himself. If he'll reveal himself, then he'll no longer be creating it. So Hashem desires this paradox. You want to talk about what do you get for Hashem? You get Hashem a paradox. That's what you get for Hashem. You get him a paradox. The paradox is that the creation continues to exist. I, as a created being, continue to exist. And yet within that, I let him in without it overwhelming my created existence out of existence. And that's what causes Hashem so much joy. Hashem gets unique joy and nachas, gratification, satisfaction from being able to be present in a world which he designed to be inhospitable to his presence. It's like, I never thought of it this way before, but Woody Allen is famous for quoting Groucho Marx, who said, "I would never want to belong to a club that would have someone like me as a member." There's something very Jewish about that, aside from the fact that it's Woody Allen quoting Groucho Marx. So God says, not I would never be part of a club that would have me as a member, but almost like, I don't get so much nachas from being part of a club that would have me as a member. In other words, Hashem could show up in heaven, and the malachim, the angels there, they love it. They're like, here he is, the CEO, roll out the red carpet. And it's like, it's not that exciting. What Hashem gets excited about is to be invited into a world that he designed specifically to be inhospitable to him. If you go up to him, oh, come on, what's the point? I have angels who are here already. It's to stay down here and to bring him into this world. Now, obviously, objectively speaking, he's already in this world because he is everything. But subjectively speaking, he's not here until you let him in. So now I'm happy because I feel he's with me, but I'm happy for him that he feels he's getting his invitation to this exclusive club that he designed to be inhospitable to him. Hashem's getting the thrill of the paradox. So he's like, not only did I get into this club where they have a sign on the front that says, no God allowed. There's a sign in front of this club that says, no God allowed. And he got in. And then not only he got in, but you say, you want to go to our special room that's for members only? And you bring God into that room, then it's like, wow, what a thrill. So you're down in the physical world, and not only in the physical world, but in Chutzlot, it's outside of the land of Israel. And then sitting in New York, you think about the oneness of God and allow Hashem into your world. That's very, very gratifying for him. He really enjoys that. That Hashem is happy that he gets to have a place in the exclusive club that he designed to have a no God allowed sign on the front. He created the club, he put the no God allowed sign on it. Actually, he created the club, he created the obnoxious jerks who wrote the no God allowed sign on it. He put you into the club with the risk of you becoming actually part of that club and actually buying into it. And yeah, I also I don't want God in this club. And then what happens is you say, you know what? I'm going to let God in. I'm going to use my foothold over here to get him in here. Because in the physical plane, there does appear to be multiplicity, lots of different stuff. There seems to be all these different forces that are in control. Every different person and organization and government and economy, and they all look like they each have their own power in this world. And if you buy into it, actually like follow that narrative, you start thinking there's all these different powers in the world, but it's not true. There's one power. There's one power. So Hashem wants to be at home in the place where it seems like there are many makers. But then you, through your subjective clarity, you don't buy into the narrative that there are different powers at work. You turn the world that looks like it's full of many different powers into a world that only has one power and one authority. And Hashem is very happy with that. And that should make you very happy. So in addition to the fact that when you think about how Hashem is really here in this world, despite what the world may look like, that makes you feel not alone. So that itself is making you happy. But then even more than that, you realize, aha, that's precisely the greatest joy for Hashem, that paradox of being able to be brought into this world. And now you're even happier because not only I'm happy for the original reason I was happy, but I'm happy that Hashem is so happy.
So that was a clip from one of your recent Monday morning Tanya Shurim.
Yeah, you can see the train in the background because it's at the Levi Yitzchok Library, which is a children's library on Central Avenue in Cedarhurst. So that's what that train is. It's a children's giant children's prop. Yes.
Quite a few of your recorded classes take place there. I do want to mention I saw a beautiful donation come in from Rabbi Zalman Chani Wallowik before we got started here tonight.
Sure.
And I just came across this one. Rabbi Tau, no, that's not this one. SoulWords content, this is in reference to the Tanya share, has enhanced. Number 12. SoulWords content has enhanced my knowledge of Torah, Hasidus, and of Tanya in particular. I thoroughly enjoy Rabbi Taub's sense of humor, quick wit, great memory, and vast knowledge and experience. Rabbi Taub takes such deep and lofty ideas and brings them down in understandable and practical terms. Love his teaching style. Thank you so much. That's very nice. So he mentions your humor and wit and memory and vast knowledge, etc. So I wanted to discuss the wit. You have a way of sort of tangentially and off the cuff making sometimes obscure references to things that often go over people's heads. And it was, I think from that video that we saw, there was references to Groucho Marx and Woody Allen.
It was actually one quote. It was Woody Allen quoting Groucho Marx.
It's very meta.
So it was very meta, yeah. I would never belong to a club which would have someone like me as a member. And then it occurred to me, that was spontaneous, by the way. It was teaching class of chapter 33 of Tanya. It was it was chapter 33 of Tanya. Yismach Yisrael Ba'esav, and talking about how Hashem rejoices in when we let him into this world. This is a world where he is inherently hidden, and when we believe in him and we bring him into our lives, it's like getting him into the club that would not have him as a member. I mentioned the Groucho Marx Woody Allen thing because it popped into my head, and I felt like, I got to tell you something. There were times in the past where I would have filtered that, I would have censored that, and would have said, it's silly, and it's a Tanya share where we're talking about Groucho and Woody Allen. But you know what I realized? Because you read that comment, a lot of people comment to me like they appreciate that. So actually, I got to tell you something. The more I teach, the more I've become comfortable with myself. Because I realized what people are connecting with or not connecting with is just my authentic self. So the people who don't connect with my style, that's great. There's so many other teachers, and they can connect with those teachers. But the people who do connect with my style, they appreciate the fact that I'm explaining chapter 33 of Tanya by quoting Groucho Marx being quoted by Woody Allen.
Is there any other way?
Is there
It almost contextual. It sounds like God is very Jewish.
God, yeah.
I mean, God is obviously universal, but I mean, I don't know if that's a thing. But is God Jewish?
Is God?
He seems to have enough complexes. I mean,
Mark Twain, in his famous essay about the Jews, he references a German newspaper article where there was a hailstorm in a German city, and every structure in the city had its windows broken except for the synagogue. And the caption to the picture was, "I'm getting sick of this nepotism."
Yeah.
At any rate, okay, but what was the point about the Groucho?
So there's another clip I wanted to play. This was from your last week. You made a pretty obscure reference that I wanted to play. I thought it was pretty timely, even though it was
correct, and I'm questioning the purpose of life, because so then that's what I came here for. God took my soul, put it in a body, and now the best that I can, with a lot of hard work, the best I'll ever achieve is behavioral perfection. But I'll never be rid of that internal emotional conflict. It's always going to be there. So, and that's what it's all about, Alfie. That's what it's all about. You guys don't get any references.
I got it.
Burt Bacharach, Soll gesund sein. He's still alive.
You want to tell why?
I know why you played that, because that was Monday's Tanya share a week ago today, and I said, is that what it's all about? Alfie, which is a Burt Bacharach song. What's it all about, Alfie? And which, by the way, as I'm saying this, can I just say tangentially, what's all about Alfie is it was a theme song from a movie, Alfie, starring Michael Caine, and it's speaking about the algorithm. One day, like a week ago, I'm going to get back to Burt Bacharach. One day, like a week ago, 10 different people sent me a clip of Michael Caine talking. And I guess it's, the algorithm that the SoulWords virtual community was getting hit with the Michael Caine quote. But the Michael Caine quote was, Michael Caine's a British actor. I think he's in his 90s by now. Anyways, he's telling a story about, so Michael Caine was Alfie. He's telling a story about, he was in a dress rehearsal for a play, and there was the two lead characters, a man and a woman, were playing a husband and wife, and they were in a fight, and they're yelling at each other on set. And he's the third character. He's supposed to make his entrance. And when it was his cue to enter, he didn't enter. And the director starts yelling at him, "Go in!" Because it was a dress rehearsal. There was no audience there, but it's supposed to go off as smoothly as if there were an audience there. So the director says, "Go in! It's your cue! Go in!" And he didn't go in. And why didn't he go in? While the two leads were having their like frantic fight scene, one of them pushed a chair, and the chair was stuck against the door of the set, and Michael Caine was trying to open the door, and the chair was blocking the door. He couldn't open the door. So he says, "I can't open the door. The chair's blocking the door." So the director gets up and says, "Use the difficulty." He's like, "What? Use the difficulty?" He says, "Use the difficulty. The chair is blocking your way, so use it. Use the difficulty. If it's a comedy, come in and fall over it. If it's a drama, take up the chair and smash it. But whatever's in your way, it's the difficulty. Use the difficulty." So Michael Caine says, that's my words to live by. Use the difficulty, which I think is very profound. At any rate, but that was a tangent within a tangent. I know why you played the Burt Bacharach, because I said that reference, what's it all about, Alfie, a week ago today, on Monday. And then Erev Shabbos, 5 days later, Burt Bacharach passed away. Which I thought about it when it first happened. I was like, oh no, did I jinx it? Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned anything. The man was in his 90s and I'm mentioning he's still alive. You see the clip. I was like, he's still alive, But God forbid. That's, I said Soll gesund sein, which is Yiddish for he should be well. And there's no way that blessing a Jew that he should be well would cause anything negative. So I actually thought about it. And I thought, I don't know the details, but presumably his health has been declining. And maybe by mentioning him, and I don't know what possessed me to mention him randomly in a Tanya class in Five Towns on a Monday morning, but I would like to believe that mentioning him for a blessing of health, that he should be well, may have given him an extra few days. And maybe even he accomplished something that he needed to finish off accomplishing during those last few days. And that's what I thought about. And that's what I told my kids at my Shabbos table this Shabbos. And I also, at my Shabbos table, I wrote a song. Can I sing my song?
You need music
my
accompaniment, or
I don't need accompaniment. No, I could sing it because it's all. I only worked at the chorus. I don't have the whole song. I just have the chorus. This is dedicated to Burt Bacharach and to Hal David, who was Burt Bacharach wrote the music. Hal David would write the words. So here's my song. What the world needs now is Mashiach. Each and every one of us needs to be a shliach. That's it. That's all I have.
We'd like one of our viewers to take up the next stanza. I think we can. I think we can make the full song by the end of this week.
We could write
by Thursday.
the song.
I would like to have the rest of the song. I have a thought.
Anyone who makes a donation of over $1,000 gets to write a verse of the song.
Well, it's an honor. All right. Yeah, we're not just going to pick any.
And I'll sing it.
You'll sing it?
If they give it
Okay, so Thursday we're going to get a music accompaniment.
Yeah.
And we're going to play the song, and we want to get the rest of the song in.
Yeah.
All right. The heck with love. We need Mashiach.
When you have Mashiach,
it's not,
you have all the love as
not
well.
Really, right, no.
What's going on, Chaim? What are we doing?
I wanted to, perhaps besides the, is that what it's all about, Alfie?
Yeah.
Right. What if,
By the way,
I'd like to make
I want
another.
to tell you something else. In that 10-second clip you played, there was a second Burt Bacharach reference, which I wanted to make as well. There were two, and I resisted the first and only did the second.
I can only imagine what it's like to live in that head of yours.
Because I was talking about that the Alter Rebbe, chapter 35, is addressing the fact that the Beinoni has this unresolvable struggle against his internal conflict, and I said and so the Alter Rebbe tells you to focus on behavioral perfection instead of trying to perfect your insides, your emotions, which you'll never ultimately perfect. So just focus on your behaviors. And you heard me say those words. That's the best that you can do. So that was also Burt Bacharach, Hal David. Anyone can Google that and tell me what. And I resisted that one, but then what's it all about, Alfie?
You couldn't help yourself.
Couldn't help myself. And it ended up being a way of mentioning Burt Bacharach for a blessing in his final days of life.
The Neshama of Burt Bacharach, we should find out
his Jewish name. Yeah, I would love to know his name and his father's Jewish name. And obviously his Neshama should have an Aliyah.
We still plan one day to go down the whole Friars Club membership and just
in
do
the cemeteries in Queens?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And do a little back, check my phone. I want to offer this idea.
You were supposed to wear the earpiece, and you resisted the earpiece.
I'm not going to become one of those guys. The amount of things I've said about people who wear those.
I mean, the guys who walk around.
Then again, I am now
with the
official
earpiece?
baby carrier.
You wear a baby carrier, papoose?
Yeah. All right. What?
You carry your infant son in a baby carrier?
Anyway, but I want to offer
I was asking, do you? Okay, we don't have to talk about it.
Anyway, whatever. So I'm not going to wear the clip.
All right.
What's
going on?
Oh. Last year.
I feel like I should be flustered, not you. You're okay.
Not there's anything wrong with that. Last year we did a recurring segment during the fundraiser live stream about the truth and the paradox.
Yes.
And you're talking now about the paradox as the ultimate gift to God in the form of what you give someone who's got everything.
Yes.
You give them this gift of the paradox to live within this constant duality.
Yes.
And yet, even when we're striving for perfection, thinking that that is supposed to be where it's at, and yet it seems that we can only settle for behavioral, and we're stuck in that zone, and then we see, okay. And is that what it's all about, Alfie? And then you brought up this, what I think you assumed was an obscure reference to Michael Caine because of the movie. That story of Michael Caine, used the difficulty.
Yes.
So last year we had this thing about the truth and the paradox, and I was thinking of some of the greatest examples of the truth and paradox, and I was thinking in terms of in the world of 12-step recovery, there's all these beautiful spiritual paradoxes, one of them being the service as a way of getting above your own problems, but specifically it's like, you got a problem, go help someone else. Well, how does that work?
Yourself first before you help somebody else, right?
So I Googled, or how do you keep it? By giving it away. So I Googled service recovery paradox.
Service recovery.
I Googled those words last year, thinking I would just like copy paste some of the usual paradoxes that
like a Cavett video?
No, I got this, and I didn't mention it. And I thought it was fascinating. There was a study done by some marketing firm in the early '90s for the Marriott chain of their network of hotels. They did like a multi-year customer satisfaction report, and in short, the results were there were people who were satisfied, people who were not so satisfied, and then there were people who were over the top, not just satisfied, but were like lifelong committed, like that's where they're going to stay, even if they have to go out of their way to stay at a Marriott or one of their network hotels, and pushed it for other people, like more than just satisfied. And what they realized were, by and large, those people were ones who had an initial difficulty at a hotel stay. And there was a few examples that they gave. So something went terribly wrong, and the way in which the hotel went about correcting or addressing the problem,
that's amazing.
It just
that
was
won
like
them over for life.
Won them over for life. And it's one of those things like you can't
purposely do that
exactly. To reference another Fortune 500 company that had a fiasco in the 80s with Coca-Cola. I don't remember the guy's name, but we weren't smart enough to think of that and weren't stupid enough to try it if we did think about it, right? So how crazy is that? This is a real life example, and like as in the money world and reality, that we're not looking for no problems. We're looking for something deeper. We're looking for, what would you say?
The perfection within imperfection. We're not looking for a life free of problems. We're looking for how our problems can bring us to our full purpose in this world. No?
Yeah.
Thinking about it?
Yeah. And this is a theme that has come up, I mean, certainly within Tanya, because even though we all have examples in our lives, our friend here, Aaron, just before, like
Pop insanity.
this like crazy
By the way,
circumstance, this restaurant.
Did anyone get the gifts, by the way? Because you said anyone who what was the thing?
We'll have to check. Anyone who gave a donation over
effective
$500, so $250,
and
then
that's 10 people get the Pop insanity.
yeah. So I imagine by now. Oh, okay. we have a live guest. But just to summarize, he was sharing about like all these series of events that led to what seemed like a disaster, getting stuck with this machinery,
Right.
like a problem that then,
Blessing in disguise.
But yeah, not to sound cliche about it, but then
It's a
living
cliche for a reason.
Exactly. All right, we have a live guest that
Bring on.
yeah.
What's happening?
Hello.
What's happening? Where do I look? There. Okay. Oh, it's Ellie.
Here we go. What's going on, Chase?
Baruch Hashem, Ellie, you got me into this mess.
Another
Good, we're going to help you out with it as well.
Okay. That's what we were just talking about. Kai was talking
Right.
about this customer satisfaction. Somebody was in a problem, but then how the problem was resolved. You got me into this mess. 4 years ago, you made me do my first crowdfunding campaign on the charity platform. Charity has been very good to me, and we've had a lot of success with them. And it was crazy because I'd never done that. I mean, I'd done fundraising on a small scale, never anything like that. And you know what happened? That was 2 months before the COVID lockdown. And
I remember.
all of my speaking engagements, the way I used to keep things funded was through my speaking engagements. It all got canceled, all my speaking engagements for a year. I had nothing. And because of that funding, I was able to take that money and put it into video production and like triple and quadruple the amount of content I was putting out online, which was like during the lockdown, everyone was consuming content online. It was like, it ended up being like, yeah, total providence. At any rate, so now we're in our 4th year and I blame it on you.
So we're here to help you out. So what
Appreciate
can we tell people? Can we tell people how expensive it is to do quality production?
We could talk about that. We could talk about videographers and editing, and we could talk about the manpower and the woman power of actually having people create the clips and put them on social media. We could talk about the overhead of running an office and hiring more staff, because when SoulWords started, it was a one-man operation. It was just me. But we could talk about but I don't know. You're the businessman, so you tell me how to pitch it.
Right, I've been shocked by that. Because I recently got into this field a little bit. With putting a microphone in front of my face and speaking sometimes. And it's quite expensive. First of all, the amount of money it takes to just put sound out there that people can hear clearly.
By the way,
it's 2023. It's not
sound is more important than video. In video,
much more important
sound
than
is,
video.
because if somebody can't hear you, if they're straining to hear you, they click away in a half a second. No question.
All I'll say is I hope it sounds better to the people listening than it does to me on this Zoom call.
You sound beautiful. You sound
Okay,
great.
you can hear me. It's good.
I hear you. Yeah. You want to sing "What the World Needs Now" is Mashiach? No. Okay.
No. So in terms of sound, the video, and then the other is all of the people you need around you to make sure that things are going well.
The invisible
so that you
people.
can spend your time giving classes.
There's a whole staff that people don't see. They see my face, but they don't see all the people behind it.
Personally, I don't think it's enough. because there are times when I've been on a call with you and you've been fumbling with audio. You know more about technology than I do.
Yeah, I will admit, and I said that we're doing this at 321 Motion Studios in Crown Heights, which is, thank God I had the sanity to do it here. But a lot of times, yeah, we're doing it at my home studio. And Shammai Chain from 321 Motion, he came down, he set up a studio. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes I'm running around fumbling with audio, and I'll like, hold on a second, I got to go plug in this cord, or yeah.
You know, a couple of years ago, I got interviewed by this businessman named Patrick Bet-David.
Yeah.
He has an online channel with 4 million subscribers. He has a very large podcast, Valuetainment. What I was impressed by was when I sat down for the interview, for 10 minutes, I fumbled with 2 other people. As soon as everything was ready, the guy sat down. Within 5 seconds, was talking and doing the interview. That's what I wish for you, Reb Shais.
He has a pretty nice studio, by the way. I haven't
He
seen
has
it.
a studio because the people who listen to him understand that it costs money because he charges them.
So this
your
is
format's a little bit different,
yeah.
but that's what I think is needed. I think that's the goal that we have to set for SoulWords, is that you should be able to sit down and within 5 seconds begin talking.
You know what I did recently for my mental health? I told you about it. So you already know about this, but the world doesn't know about it. So we're going to pretend like it's the first time I'm telling you about it. My wife mentioned to me, or she observed, you're way too connected to the outside world. And she's right. She's always right. So I made a new thing that in the morning, so after I say the bedtime Shema, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. And then when I get up in the morning, even though I know there's stuff going on, I have a campaign, I have people trying to get a hold of me, I don't plug back into technology until after mikveh, chassidus, shachris, a bunch of Hebrew words, chitas, and I wish I could add Rambam. I didn't add Rambam yet, but until all of that's done, I do not allow the world to touch me. And I want to tell you something. I have felt my level of well-being on a physical level. My body is more calm since taking that on. It was only a few weeks ago, but you talk about being able to show up and have all the people set up all the technical stuff, and I can just sit down and start teaching. You know, really, ideally, we're gonna need more than $500,000. But what I would really like to be able to do, and I hope this isn't just selfishly, I hope this is for the cause, is to be able to devote myself so that I can do what I do that people find value in, which is studying Torah and teaching Torah, and not to be involved in anything else. Let the experts do everything else.
So everyone knows it's not for selfish reasons. Everyone is there. They know. They see what your life is about. They see what you're committed to. And maybe I should connect it to that. I met you, not directly, I didn't meet you. I met your book. I was at Shneir Kaplan's home in Fort Lauderdale. I came there for Shabbos. At the time, I was fairly disconnected from Judaism, from God, from everything. But about 2 months before, I had begun 12-step meetings for recovery from sex addiction. And Shneir Kaplan gave me a stack of books. As we often did, we traded books. And in those books was one, he's like, oh, you have to read this one. This purple book, God of Our Understanding, Jewish Recovery and something, I don't know, Jewish spirituality and recovery from addiction. And it was the first one I read from the pile. And it planted a seed which is still growing till this day. That my recovery could be connected to Judaism. So it's powerful, and I thank you for that, and it's the reason why I'm as passionate about helping you as I am. I've told everyone, because I don't charge for my work, for the stuff that I put out there, for the content, that as far as I'm concerned, anyone who's been touched by the stuff I put out there, if they give a donation to SoulWords, it's as good as giving money to me.
Oh.
So I hope you got to 500,000 easily this year, so that next year you can raise the goal even higher. People can understand that the way it should work is you should be able to study Chitas, Rambam. It shouldn't even be a thought that you can sit down and teach, and not worry about fumbling with these things, electronics and otherwise.
I thank you. First of all, I thank you for your help. I thank you for your belief in me. And I appreciate you as a teacher. You're somebody that I learn from. And particularly, I mean, we had a whole podcast actually about this, about business and spirituality. And, I've learned a lot from you, from myself, in the integration of the physical and the spiritual. And, look, it's not a new concept. Our sages say, Im ein kamach ein Torah. Im ein Torah ein kamach. If there's no Torah, there's no flour. If there's no flour, F-L-O-U-R, meaning food. If there's no Torah, there's no food. If there's no food, there's no Torah. Meaning it takes money to have spirituality, and then the spirituality brings the money, and it's a virtuous circle. So that's not a new idea. But a lot of the discussions that you and I have had, particularly private discussions about fundraising, have been important aha moments for me. And I thank you for that.
Beautiful. I'm glad to be part of that. There was a Hayam Yam you shared with me once, that there's one way, another way, and then Chabad way. Some connection between spirituality and materialism.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Hayam Yams. Yeah. It says there are three schools of thought. One, so it's all based on the relationship between Chomer and Tzura. Chomer and Tzura are, I'll just translate. Chomer is the physical substance. Tzura means the function, its purpose. So, you have like...
so matter and energy?
Matter and energy would be a good way to say. Yeah, in Chassidus, we'd say Gashmias and Ruchnias. Yeah. So there are three schools of thought how to deal with that dichotomy. So one of them says you have to learn how to despise the physical or matter for its own sake, to see how all physical things are fleeting and how they all rot. And that's called Musar.
Asceticism.
Which part of it is asceticism and shunning the physical world. Okay. Then the second school of thought is about cultivating an appreciation for the spiritual. And that's called Hakira, which is often translated as Jewish philosophy. Famous works of Jewish philosophy like Meir HaNevuchim, The Guide to the Perplexed, and the Kuzari, and different Jewish philosophical works. Okay. And then
so this would be someone maybe meditating the whole day.
Yeah, in order to be immersed in the world of the spirit. And that would...
I mean, they're not focused on breaking their physicality as much as they are on enhancing their spirituality.
Correct. So the first one was more about how to combat the human drive toward physical desires. The second one is more about cultivating, I guess in a positive way, your appreciation for the spiritual. And then there's a third way. And it says the third way is to realize, and there's a reason why this is one of my favorite Hayam Yams. The third way is to realize one God made both of them, both the physical and the spiritual, for one purpose. And therefore to recognize the value of the physical when it is refined by the spiritual, as well as, and this is a bigger bombshell, the benefit of the spiritual that is represented and embodied within the physical. It's not just, see, the first one is a little bit easier to understand, that a physical thing that doesn't have spiritual meaning is a waste of space. But then there's the other side of it, which is, and a spiritual idea that isn't embodied in physicality is also lacking. And that third school of thought is called Teiras HaChassidus, teachings of Hasidism.
There we go. But I think that practically, if people saw the Rebbe driving a broken down car, it would bother them. Why? I think that's what
Right.
it is, right? You want to see it. You want to see the spiritual represented in the
Right.
physical.
Right.
The best of both worlds.
And that's what Mashiach is. Mashiach happens here on the terrestrial plane. It's where the physical world becomes totally transparent, and we see spirituality within the physical much more clearly than they see it in heaven, where it's only spiritual.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope people take what matters
No pun intended.
and distribute the
Matter.
energy of money
Yeah.
towards a campaign so that you're able to touch more souls with your spiritual wisdom.
Amen. Thank you for the brachas. And, a lot of people will give eloquent brachas, which you do. And also you give tangible help. You're one of our matchers. And, again, I don't feel I can do justice to it, but people should just understand that Eli Nash not only writes me checks, but he's given me a lot of time to coach me. I would almost call you my fundraising coach. Like I said, you're the one who got me into crowdfunding, and each and every time that we've expanded the vessel, you've coached me through it and pushed me where I need pushing. You've pulled me back when I needed being pulled back, and I'm grateful. So thank you, Eli, for everything that you've done for me.
Just to add on one thing, one of the things you didn't talk about is every time a campaign is done, okay, people know that, let's say SoulWords raised $500,000. The fire the next day is real. There has to be more content. If people don't see a major difference.
You can only do that once. You can do that 1 year.
No, it's every year.
I'm saying if you raise the big money, the big goal, and then you just keep doing what you've been doing, you can get away with that 1 year. You can't do that again the next year. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you double it.
Yeah. So God willing, we're
Then
gonna.
people want twice as much. So that's the real motivation. The real motivation is that raising more pushes to do more. It's that virtuous cycle.
Basically, you're saying that once I have this money, God willing, it's going to force me, if I have any self-respect, to multiply my output.
Correct. Listen, there's no secret. You have myself, you have Chaim Cohn here. We're not here because we're getting paid. We're here to demonstrate appreciation that your work has impacted us positively. And there's many others who were helped, who are being helped, but more importantly, many who could be helped, but are not yet. So we're working on that. We're working on getting your message out to more people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shais. Thank you for
Thank you,
contribution.
Belly. Thank you.
I'm excited to be a partner with you in it.
Thank you.
Reb Chaim, hello.
Hi, Ellie. Good to
And
see you.
goodbye.
Thanks, Ellie.
See you later.
Feels like this is all we end up talking anymore. Our annual.
See you next year at the campaign.
All right. My old friend. So we're getting to the close of our program for tonight, but you spoke to Ellie about some of the money stuff, and I listened to that podcast you recorded with him, and it was some fascinating stuff, and about it's not just the overlap, it really is one and the same, the money and spirituality, even it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, I have to force, I want it to be related because I don't want to feel guilty that I'm overdoing the money thing, and it's like, I've noticed it with time. If I replace time, anyway, money coach. I hired a time management coach. I told you about that. It was a disaster.
It's one of my favorite. Yeah.
But whenever
one of my favorite Chaim stories.
Anyway,
you don't want to tell that? You started it.
I paid her in advance, like one often does with
Time
coaches.
management
But she's a real coach. She's anyway. Then I didn't do the homework, and I was afraid to call her back for 9 months. I didn't
Right.
Wasn't That's sort of why someone hires someone like that, because there's someone who. But anyway, the pathology of it aside, when I did put pen to paper, I realized that coming to terms with my limitation, which is some people have it with budgeting. Not that but forget budgeting. Budgeting my time. When I put pen to paper and like put times on it, it was like the acceptance of my being a limited person. It was a spiritual exercise. And every time I'm like pushed to delegate something, but I want to do that, but I have to do that. I can't trust anyone else. There's like the ability to trust that something could be done even if I'm not the one who's doing it. The ability to like trust that just because I don't think I'll do it today, that doesn't mean that my life will fall apart, as if it ends up working when I try to do everything that day. Anyway, but I would love to talk about that at some point with you, but bringing it not down to the money, but up to the money. You spoke about, or Ellie spoke about adding zeros. Usually some people think of that as a negative, oh, it's just a bunch of zeros. But zeros matter, and zeros are good.
Well, it depends what digit is in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some really nice numbers here that I feel I would like to
Call out.
Okay. Soshi Ben Abu, $7,200 in memory of Shimi Ben Abu of blessed memory. If you're, familiar with Crown Heights, you know who that person is, and he was a wonderful man, and that's a beautiful donation and commemoration.
It should be on a schos for him. Neshama should have
Yeah.
Mashiach should come. His family should be reunited with him here in this physical world immediately.
Amen. $3,600 for Refuah Shlema for Ilana Baschana from Mike Kernish. $3,600 from the Sachs family, thank you. $3,600 from Zalman and Devorah Vishetsky. Anonymous, $3,600. $2,000, Shalom and Pessy Jacobs, in honor of our friend Rabbi Shais Taub. It's an honor to be part of it. $2,000, Richard and Allison Sutton. $2,000, Dovey and Ruthie Sperlin.
By the way, that guy, Richard Sutton, that you're reading there, you know where I met him? Not far from here. A few days ago, I was at Yisrael Gordon Oliver Shalom's Shiva. And so this guy was there to be Menachem Oval Yossi Gordon from Chabad on campus. And by the way, if you have anything left over after you donate here, you have to give to Chabad on campus.
Save that for Thursday.
Save that for Thursday. Okay. Anyways, so I was at the. You remember Yisrael Gordon, right?
I was honored to have for many years Shabbos afternoons with him.
So I went to the Shiva, and there was this guy talking to me, and I've never met him before, and he's asking me, "What do you do?" And so I mentioned the website SoulWords. He pulled it up on his phone, soulwords.org, and there's a pop-up. My daughter Tybal put a pop-up. So once you go to for the past few weeks, once you go to SoulWords, it has a pop-up of the fundraising campaign. So he sees I'm doing a fundraiser. As we're walking out of the house, he says, "Oh, you're doing a fundraiser." And as he says to me, "You're doing a fundraiser," there's a woman standing there, and I guess she was already in town for Kinnis HaShluchos, which just ended today. And she introduced herself, Mrs. Hecht, I think from Puerto Vallarta. She told me for sure she was from Mexico. And she said, "My husband and I took your parenting course, and it was excellent." So this guy, Richard Sutton, he's standing next to me. He's like, "Did you pay her to stand out in front of this house as we're walking out?" I said, "No, this wasn't planned at all." He's like, "Well, I'm giving $1,000.
Wow.
So then he just put some stuff in his phone, and I guess he did it. And that's the story of that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We got like 2 minutes left, so I want to.
No, they're not going to pull the plug.
You're not going to?
No,
not on like a hard.
You can read some big numbers.
Dovey and Ruthie Sperlin, $2,000.
Good friends, yeah.
Rabbi Zalman Chani Wallowik, we mentioned earlier,
course,
2,000.
yeah.
Thank you for the
Shluchim
Torah
in 5
classes.
towns.
You teach at Chabad of the 5 towns. Beautiful. Barry Ort. I'm assuming if people write their names, they're comfortable with me sharing them.
They could
but
click
everyone
anonymous.
could put in anonymous as well.
Some of them were anonymous.
Yeah.
Okay.
$2,000 Barry Ort. Chesky and Rivki Ruddle. $1,540 in honor of our kids Sheicha from the parenting alumni.
They're parenting alumni, and also I stayed at their house when I was in what's the name of the
Rose.
No, the town in Miami. So what's it called? Forget the name of the town. Anyways, when I went there for HaBitachon, I stayed at their house, and they're good friends and supporters and parenting alumni. Yeah.
Thank you. You didn't get my joke. Shlomo and Randy Marchayev,
Yes.
$1,200.
Yes, and they're
Shaar
team
HaBitachon
leaders. They're
fans.
leading a team. They live in Passaic. Actually, I just met him at the Oil a few days ago. And good friends, good supporters.
Wow.
Also
so-
parenting alumni. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's people who are donating and people, and I want to get to the
Now I
people
feel
who
bad
have
I didn't make
teams.
a comment about everybody. By the way, I could have made a comment about everybody, but okay, let's.
We'll
What
do the
else
best with Rabbi David and Rachel Jaffe. I know who that is. Manchester.
I also stayed
$1,000.
at their house. Yeah.
I stayed at their house a few times. I
Oh,
was
you
there.
were in Manchester. You
Yeah,
went to yeshiva
that's
in
where I met
Manchester.
Ellie. We were in yeshiva together.
That's right. Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was there. They had a flood. The whole house flooded. One of the kids
Jaffe?
stuffed the bathroom. Yeah.
Did you flood the house?
No. What has happened? It was a great. Anyway, was my fondest memories of Manchester. Some of them was that
Jaffe's house.
going away, not the flood, but
okay.
just the great energy in that home.
Okay.
Heloise.
My daughter Tybal, who got married a few months ago, and that's why we pushed off the campaign.
That's
used to be
right.
in November. And then Tybal got married.
Technically, if we're doing the English calendar, 2022 didn't write, but this is the third consecutive.
Right, we didn't do one in 2022, and so she married a guy. She actually married a guy who grew up across the street from here. Right? Where's Yisrael? Didn't Moshe David grow up across the street from the studios right here? Yeah. Anyways, so my daughter got married. And why was I mentioning? Oh, so I brought her once to Manchester with me. And one of her fondest memories of going on a trip with me is like 2 a.m. cooking hot dogs and beans in the Jaffe's kitchen in
Oh,
Manchester.
that's him. Yeah. Well, look at this. Well, Heloise Ben Sasson, $1,000, anonymous, with a team. Srili Bleichfeld,
So
$860.
Bleifield's a team leader, yeah.
Team leader. And Yisrael Taub, any relation?
Yisrael Taub is my son, Baruch Hashem.
Wow. All right, that says something. If you
You want to know something? It does say something that he, such a good boy, Baruch Hashem. Yisrael he's, oh, you pulled him up there. I see him right there right now. Okay. Yeah, he's in Detroit. That's where he went to Mesivta, and then he went back there to run the kitchen, be a dorm counselor, and he's learning smicha, and he's just such a good guy. Talk about Gashmias and Ruchnias together. Just a solid guy, and I'm proud to call him my son, and I'm grateful that he donated his own money. I'm actually very touched.
Thank you, Yisrael. Joseph and Rosie Kahan, $720, and that's with the SoulWords WhatsApp broadcast team. That's another team. Joseph Bleichfeld,
That's the
$720,
Bleifeld team.
and that's just really same.
It's family,
My
yeah.
yeah, and from my son Srili Israel Usher Ben Saper. I'm very proud of him. All right, there's lots of other ones, but I want to quickly review the teams and then tell you, everyone who's watching, a little bit about what's going on tomorrow. Oh, speaking of one of your sons, we have another one.
Oh,
here.
Avram Abba, come on, come over here. Okay.
You know, a lot of people want. That's great. Come, why don't you sit here?
Okay. Oh, you can sit over here. This is very spontaneous. So we're just talking about Yisrael. So this is Avram Abba. Sit down. Now, I want to tell you something. I texted Avram Abba. Whenever I'm in Crown Heights, I always text him that I'm around because, I want to, take him out to eat. And so I texted him as I was coming to Crown Heights. I didn't know if he would get the text. And it's so nice that you surprised us. And I want to say why it's very appropriate that you should be joining. Were you ready to be on camera?
I knew it would be.
You knew it was a possibility?
Yeah.
You knew you would? Because I didn't know I
Yeah.
would put you on camera.
I knew you would put me on
You
camera.
knew that?
Yeah.
So it's very appropriate because I was thinking the other day that you are the only one of the Taub children who appears on SoulWords. And in fact, you appear twice. Do you remember your 2 video appearances that you made on SoulWords?
I do.
What were they?
I believe,
You got to get closer to the mic.
I
Come on.
believe one of them was CM
Get closer,
on
go much
Makis,
closer.
was it?
What?
Was it a CM on Makis?
CM on Makos, yes.
The other one was Tamid, maybe? Or
No,
was it
Hideous.
it was Hideous.
Yeah.
Or Tamid, I didn't go on. You did a Tamid, though.
I think I did Tommy, but I don't think I did a CM online.
You
so
did.
you
You
came
did on Zoom.
online with me.
Yeah.
I did it. You're right. It is CM on Tomid on Zoom. You're right. But our two siyumim that we did on, I think there were 9 days siyumim, and you
Yeah.
joined me.
Yeah.
So now you are here again, your third time on video with me.
Yeah.
Avram Abba, where do you learn?
I learned in Aleteria. It's going great, Baruch Hashem.
Baruch
A
Hashem.
lot of Islacha.
And what do you study?
A lot of different Judaisms.
Can you tell about one of the Judaisms?
One
that
of
you
the
study?
Judaisms. So I learned some Chassidus.
Yeah.
So that's a
What
pretty
is
big
Chassidus?
Judaism.
What is Chassidus?
I don't know what is Chassidus. There's a whole kuntres called the essence of Chassidus.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know what Chassidus
What's
is?
Chassidus?
There's an introduction to the bilingual Tanya. The first English Hebrew Tanya, the Tanya that was put out, whereas Hebrew on one page and English on the other page. And the Rebbe wrote an introduction to that publication in English, which I love whenever the Rebbe is writing in English, because my mama Loshin is English, so my animal soul speaks English. So when the Rebbe is speaking in English, that like hits me on a deeper level. So the Rebbe wrote an introduction to the bilingual Tanya in English, and the first sentence is, I'll tell you what the first sentence is. Chassidus in general, and Chabad Chassidus in particular, and by the way, I find it very interesting that in Hebrew you would say Chassidus Chabad, but because it's in English, the Rebbe said Chabad Chassidus. So Chassidus in general and Chabad Chassidus in particular is an all-embracing worldview and way of life. I think that's very cool. First of all embracing. There's no part of life that it doesn't touch. But worldview. Worldview means the chokhmah of it, the perspective. But then it can't just be academic, it has to be practical and way of life, meaning how you actually live your day-to-day life. Okay, so Chassidus in general and Chabad Chassidus in particular is an all-embracing worldview and way of life, which sees the primary purpose of the Jew. Now, before I finish that sentence, I think it's fascinating that what defines Chassidus as a worldview and way of life is a particular perspective of Jews. Not the way it sees the meaning of life, not the way that it sees even Hashem, the way that it sees Jews. Okay, so let me back up. Chassidus in general and Chabad Chassidus in particular is an all-embracing worldview and way of life that sees, I know it's which sees the primary purpose of the Jew as the unifying link between creator and creation. So what is Chassidus?
Chassidus in general and Chabad Chassidus in particular is a unifying,
An all-embracing
worldview and way of life that encompasses,
which sees
the Jew,
primary purpose
of the Jew,
might be central purpose
central purpose of the Jew, and is
as the
unifying link between God,
creator
and creation.
And you study
Okay.
that,
Yeah, that's what I study.
and you like it.
Oh yeah,
Excellent.
it affects my way of life
And your worldview.
and my worldview.
It's a worldview that affects your way
Yeah.
of life. Okay, excellent. So you know we're raising money over here.
Yeah, I do.
You know how much?
$500,000. Was it?
Oh, we already said we're not saying half a
so
million. We're saying
sorry.
500,000.
Okay, 500,000.
Because $1 million sounds very intimidating. So we don't say $500,000.
I think you deserve $1 million. That's okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Abba. And God willing, maybe, who knows, maybe we'll go to bonus rounds and somebody will give an extra $500,000 in the bonus round. We'll hit $1 million. Okay. Could someone can you hand me that thing over there? Because the magazine, the Ami magazine. This is, because I just want to, because David, you want to talk about just the highlights, what's coming up? Yeah, we should. Okay. This is from Ami magazine, where I used to write regularly every week. A lot of people know me from that. That they printed these ads here. So I'm just looking at the ad that was in the Ami magazine. Okay, so day one was the power of trust at 8 p.m. About Shaar HaBitachon, and user's manual for the soul, which is about Tanya at 9 p.m. Okay, so we did that. Baruch Hashem, we talked about those two things. Tomorrow, Tuesday night, we're going to be back here again, 321 Motion Studios in Crown Heights. At 8 p.m., you're invited again, Avram Abba,
Okay.
to join us. Berushus Hola. And what time is lights out? So you don't have to answer that. Okay. So tell us the topics that are going to be tomorrow night on day 2.
All right, day 2.
Yes.
We have be the parent your child deserves. Oh, that's
Hey,
great.
That's great.
That's great.
Okay. That'll benefit you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's at 8 o'clock.
Do I
Yeah.
read the subtitle?
You could, yeah, sure.
Okay. Sometimes in order to raise our children, we need to raise ourselves. Oh, okay. How's that go? How's that going?
Baruch Hashem, we're working on it.
So this is not about me. This is about you.
So that your children don't have to raise.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's about my spiritual journey, and I'm just playing off of you. You're
Oh,
like my
okay. No,
foil.
that's all right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we have hello. I'm not a psychologist. Oh,
Right.
that's a big one.
You know about that?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe makes sense.
What do you think? Because you know me well. You've
Yeah.
lived with me your whole life. I haven't known you my whole life, but you've known me your whole life.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think is behind that title? You
Am
can
I-
just say it. Don't hold back.
You're not a psychologist,
Right?
And
That's what it says. But
yeah.
What's behind it?
so a lot of times,
What's the meta?
is this exactly what I think it is? Yeah.
Just say it.
all right,
Say
so
what
a
you
lot of
think it
times
is.
people
you knew
ask
that I was
you-
going to put you on the mic before I knew, so you probably
Yeah,
know what
but I didn't
meant
know
by
what
that
I was going to
better
say
than
on the
I know.
mic. Okay, so a lot of times people will call you and ask you to be their psychologist, basically, and you're not a psychologist,
I'm not a psychologist.
and you have to make that clear because you can't have false credentials. That's just
Well, you could. Some
you
people
could.
do have
Some
both
people do, but
credentials.
that's not.
But I
your thing.
don't.
That's not your thing. So Torah as a tool of for navigating life's emotional challenges. So you're not a psychologist. You just learn a lot of Torah.
Yeah. Well, I try to.
Well, okay.
I try to, and we try to apply it to life. And some people mistake that for psychology, but we'll talk about that tomorrow night.
All right.
Okay. What else? We're all good? So we'll see everybody tomorrow night? Amazing. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Chaim Cohn.
Thank you, David Abba. All right, amazing. So
He's Avram Abba.
I said David Abba. Okay, because I know it, David Abba. Thank you,
I do
Avram
too.
Abba.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot of stuff tonight, a lot of stuff to chew on, and we hope that we can get 100,000 tonight.
keep
So it's
giving.
going to keep giving throughout the night. We hope to see everyone tomorrow, and please help with the campaign. We got all week, but we have a long way to go with the money. A lot to talk about, a lot to teach. And it only happens with your support. Thanks so much, and see you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, same time.